I'm Cyclon, and this is the actual last entry in my 326 preparation series. And today we're doing recap, retro perspective, that was the word I was looking for, retro perspective, and lessons learned. So again, just like with the other videos, I'm looking at my own example. How did I do? I apply these myself, and you can then go and take these questions and do the same on your end. Now in this video specifically, as this is going to be the last in this entry and kind of also the first in the 327 preparations, I want to know, how was it for you? How did your league start go? Did you have a success? Did you didn't have a success? Did you do all the steps I did? Were they helpful to you? And if I do this again for 327, what would you like to see the same? What you would like to see changed? Now, let's take a look at this and let's look back. So, first of all, what did I do? I went Icicle Mines of Fanning on a dead eye. Was it a good thing? Was my assumption for the league start correct? I assumed that rarity farming and bossing was good. Rarity farming turned out to be absolutely massive in T16.5s with giga investment in absolutely hard maps. This build wasn't viable for that. So it just wasn't good enough for that actual viable, and the T8 rarity farming didn't felt as good. Also, with the mercenaries actually being able to rarity stick, at least as far as I've tested, I could have had also just a proper build and had the mercenary do my rarity. So the rarity angle that I looked at wasn't really worth it. So my plan B for bossing, that was good. Bossing was massive. We had a lot of new bosses, we had Ubers being giga profitable, we had T17s being profitable. Bossing would have been totally fine. I should have just went for bossing, and I did that. But I went for an Uber specific bosser. I adjusted my build to a variant that was considerably cheap, and for the bossing I did, I made mad profit. However, I had too much downtime in between. I consumed the fragments way too quickly, and I got items that were way too expensive, that they were in a liquid state and were selling fast enough, resulting in just illiquidity and not being able to run more Uber bosses. So this Uber specific bosser was a bad choice. What I should have done, generic T17 and Uber bosser. So the original build that I recommended to everyone is what I should have done myself. I should have just sticked with it. I should have stick to my guts I had before launch and should have just done exactly that and killed being able to run T17s even if just boss rushing, and killed all Uber bosses except Cyrus, because dots are annoying, but regardless, this would have been the play. And I didn't do that, and that is something I need to keep in mind for next time. My lesson learned. Bossing niche is fine. Uber bossing is not. If I can only kill 2 out of the 6 Uber bosses, that is not good. If I cannot do T17s, that is not good. So I need to look at a build that can do what I wanted to do, but I shouldn't have done the Uber specific version. That was a mistake on my end, and that is what my lesson learned is. I had too much downtime and I was forced to do an early respec. If I could have just stick to the build for another couple of days and could have spent the entirety of the first week, because I had the time to do, and just run T17s and Uber bosses the entire day with no downtime, would have been made way more than just the couple big drops I got from my Ubers. Now I got very lucky on my Uber drops. I was very happy with that and it did help out the team. I just wasted too much time doing nothing because my build wasn't able to do anything outside of those 2 Uber bosses. So this is my lesson learned. Now looking at the first step for 32017. 327. If it happens to be like 326 in the sense of bossing is important, which it almost always is, so I can always go with that angle unless they do a giga mapping rework. If bossing is important, what would I do different? Would I go Icicle Mines again? I think I would go Exang. Now, I looked at both and I decided with the Icicle Mines for the rarity angle, and I noticed that that allowed me a more stressful playstyle. I was too difficult, I was dying a little bit too much, and I don't want to do that again. Next time I do bossing, I want to be somewhat tanky, in quotations. It doesn't have to be an invincible build, but I want to have the ability to actually survive stuff more than what I had with Dissolution of Flesh and like my 6k life. I had all the damage I needed, but I could have just invested a little bit more into the build and I would have had damage and survivability. So I think Exsanguinate Reap would have been slightly better. The next thing, if that stays, Self-Chill with the Wintertide and the new belt looks really promising. So if it's gonna be a bossing league again, I really want to look at a self-chill angle. I think that looked pretty good, and I might, if I go bossing again, I will definitely look at this variant. Also, something is, tamings are fine if bow slash ele attack isn't meta. Volcanic Fissure of Snaking wasn't recommended using tamings like Lightning Strike or Lightning Arrow or Limited Spectrum is. So tamings were actually cheap and is fine to be recommended as long as nothing else wants the tamings. If we just us using tamings and a few other builds that aren't really going to be giga meta, tamings are cheap enough that we can afford them easily and they can be in the guide. That's just also a lesson learned for the next league. But this is basically it. So to recap all this, what I started was fine. I identified bossing to be good. Bossing was good. I went for a bosser. I did bosses. What wasn't fine was my decision to go too niche. I was too specific and I locked myself out of other good content. That was bad. And I should have been able to do that other good content. So for the next time, I likely go bossing again. It was a fun league start. It was good. I just need to fix my early mapping. And I need to be aware of when I want to swap at what gem levels are. And maybe even level gems by offhand at first. And then I should have been fine on that end. And if I go bossing again, I think Exsanguinate Reap looks a little bit better than Icicle Mines. But that is about it. Keep in mind self-chill, keep in mind tamings, and that is it. Now, all this being said, I would highly appreciate it if you could also share your story. How was your league start? Did it went well? Was it bad? Did you make the right assumptions and choices? And what are your lessons learned for the upcoming league? As well as, do you have any feedback for this series? Would you have liked to see a little bit more in-depth? Would you have liked to see more gameplay? Would you have liked to see a little bit different approach? Or whatever. I'm very open to feedback on the series. I think it was a lot of fun to do. And by the looks of views and the comments I got on the videos, it seemed it helped a couple of people, but I would be really curious about how many people this series actually helped and how I can improve it to help even more people with all this. Now, all this being said, have a wonderful day, and I'll be seeing you either live on Twitch, or on YouTube, or my next video. Goodbye.